But basically this is aimed at social strata. The wogs out there who are getting discontent. The youth gangs, so-called. And some of them are. Down in Compton and other areas of South Central LA. The Barrio Warriors and the others from East LA, Latino gangs, and so forth. These are pretty broad-based, and they're not especially politicized. They're simply rejective of the particular slot that has been socially and economically assigned them. They're making too much money, and they're doing it in ways that are not approved, and therefore they become targeted, but they become targeted in a sort of across-the-board manner. What happens now? When somebody steps up and says, your social discontent, your resistance to towing the line, your refusal to accept the lot that's been assigned you is commendable. But you're going about it in the wrong way. What you need to be about is not personal enrichment, but changing the situation, not only for yourself, but everyone like you. What happens when someone steps into the street gang milieu we just described in Los Angeles, or that we could describe as the Peace Stone Nation? That's what it used to be called. It's now El Rukin in Chicago, or with the Young Lords organization in New York, or any of about 500 others that we could name in major cities. What happens when someone steps into that milieu and is able to articulate a politics of transformation and resistance that they are able to understand and respond to, and begin to galvanize them into not social criminal, but rather tangibly political activity? Now you just changed the rules of the game, and you changed the nature of the response correspondingly. Instead of having essentially criminal profiteers functioning under the mantle of police in order to maintain a certain level of passivity over the population in this area, you get very highly developed and coordinated counterinsurgency programs that are directed against him. The organizations that have been getting beat up, the membership getting beat up, occasionally assassinated for profit, are redefined in another way and targeted in a much more intensive fashion. Not simply across the board, but very, very selectively. The individuals who are capable of affecting the galvanization we're talking about are especially targeted. Now we have examples of this as well, and it's drawn out of the lexicon of what down in the States was called COINTELPRO. And this may resonate with you. You got an RCMP up here that gets trained by the FBI. And while they undoubtedly adopted different nomenclature, they use different alphabet soup for this stuff, for practicing the same things against activists up here. Gang members, for that matter. COINTELPRO. That's what they called it down in the States. Now they call it counterterrorism. Okay, same thing. Before it was called COINTELPRO, and they adopted that. Wasn't exactly an acronym, it was more of a cryptonym because the whole thing was secret. It was secret because it was illegal in terms of the corpus of law. Think about this the next time that you look at that sign that says buckle up, it's the law. Yeah, we're talking about a big law now. They're real good about telling you to be continuously aware of all these little laws, and that's to divert your attention away from the big laws that the state, as a matter of course, puts on the books to create a good PR image, but on the other hand, systematically violates. COINTELPRO. It had a life before its formal existence, and it continues to have a life after, but at the time that it actually existed in its secret and illegal form, simply meant counterintelligence program. Well, what's wrong with that, you might ask? Anybody who's read the FBI charter, which would probably include virtually no one in the room here, why should you? You're Canadians, okay? Your RCMP charter's modeled on it. That's why you should take a look at it. And it has many of the same functions vested into it as a part of its authority. The FBI actually has a legitimate charter to pursue counterintelligence activities. Its targets under the rubric of counterintelligence will be agents of hostile foreign powers, that is, saboteurs, espionage agents such as that. people who come in and blow up the local munitions plant or steal the nuclear secrets, which, by the way, Dr. Lee didn't do. They cut him loose the other day after all of that fanfare. When those cases occur, when you have agents of a foreign power operating within your society, your overall national police agency has a mandate to eliminate them. Now, they're spies and they're saboteurs, so constitutional safeguards do not apply. The object of a counterintelligence operation is not necessarily to bring about the laying of charges, a prosecution, a conviction, and consequent punishment of the individual targeted, although it's on the books as being statutory, a crime. The object, according to counterintelligence specialists in the FBI, is simply to neutralize the target. Now, one way you can do that is by prosecuting and imprisoning them. Another way you can do it is simply by exposing them, even if the information you use to expose them has to be invented. You really don't have the goods on them, but you think you know they're a spy, and so you cause to be published false information that makes it impossible for them to function as a spy. They're revealed. Or you could, let's say, simply deep six them, blow their brains out, drive an ice pick into their ear, poison them. They will, at that point, be neutralized, and that's the term used. To neutralize the target is the object. However you get the job done, the job is done. You don't have to worry about the niceties of legality and due process and so forth because they have no rights under the law. Okay? That's the legitimate rubric. It's a rough business. And you got a whole inventory of techniques that have been developed in the counter-spy business in order to effectuate this stuff. COINTELPRO, this counterintelligence program, was not aimed at agents of foreign powers, spies, saboteurs, or otherwise. It was aimed at the citizens of the United States, those citizens who had politically objectionable point of views. And who determined what was politically objectionable? The people in the driver's seat of the counterintelligence program. It wasn't subject to any check, it wasn't subject to any scrutiny, it wasn't subject to anything at all because it was illegal and secret. And in a secret operation, you don't exactly send it over to the Attorney General to ask them whether your take on the political propriety of the Socialist Workers' Party is exactly correct or not. You don't send it off to a think tank at Harvard University to see if your take on the menace posed by the Communist Party USA or Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference or whatever organization or individuals you're targeting would be correct. You simply make the decision as to what is politically objectionable, and you set in motion the machinery that is necessary to neutralize the activity by which that objectionable political expression occurs. Now, on that basis, they created what they call the Key Agitator Index. They changed the name from time to time, but the one most commonly used was Key Agitator Index. They basically went about the business of, in the process of surveilling and monitoring the activities of the organizations they determined had un-American goals, you know, like blacks having the right to vote in Mississippi. There's an un-American goal for you. Okay? The Black Panther Party being so audacious as to create a free breakfast for children program under the premise that if people in the inner city in Oakland, California, children 6 and 7 years old, were going to school without breakfast, they would probably be suffering from a nutritional and protein deficiency that would impair their learning curve, and if you gave them some grits and eggs on the way, they'd do better in school. This was targeted as a very high priority by the FBI at a certain point for elimination. This is a very insidious program. You're teaching these black kids to think, and as we all know, thought is the real menace to social order in a repressive state. The Key Agitator Index was assembled to allow the FBI, in coordination with local police departments around the country, across the United States, and it did make forays into Canada as well, to eliminate those activists who made the organizations work.